Hello and welcome to the Etoft21sports show for May 9th. How is everyone doing? My name is Erik and I am the man behind Etoft21sports. We have an absolute phenomenal show lined up for you today. Gino is going to be stopping by. He's going to tell you his horse racing bet of the day, and making his debut, Chase, aka the Wolf of Oakland, is going to be on. We're going to look back at the Kentucky Derby, tell you some bets to lock in. Those watching on Twitch, I'd like to thank you. If you could hit that follow button, it would really help me out. Those watching on YouTube, please make sure to hit that subscribe button. Helps old Uncle Rico out. Before we jump into the show, I'd like to give a shout out to the sponsor of the show, Sharps. The Sharps betting app, if you're not using it, you're missing out. It is one of the best bet tracking apps there is. It allows you to interact with other gamblers. You can post bets, you can fade, you can talk shit, which I like to do. Phenomenal app, great for bet tracking. It'll link up right to your sports books, so you don't have to worry about manually inputting what you bet and everything. Phenomenal app. Those watching on YouTube, the link to the app is in my bio. Those not watching on YouTube, go to the Apple App Store, download Sharps, use promo code ETOF499. That way they know old Uncle Rico sent you. Now let's jump in the show. Let's see what Gino has cooking for us tomorrow at Louisiana Downs.
We'll be covering Louisiana Downs again every day that they race, so I'm already looking ahead for some races later on in the week. I've got one for you on Saturday coming up at Louisiana Downs, and we're going to look at race number 1 on Saturday as I dive into the daily racing form past performances. There is absolutely no early speed in this race. It's a field of 6. The 1 has not shown any speed in 3 starts. The 2 has not been close early to the pace in those last 4 or 5 starts. The 3, not quick. The 4 is a first-time starter and has not really shown that much speed in the morning. Then we get to the 5, who was on the lead last time out, and that was the career low for Secret Moment. I think it's just a fantastic spot for the number 5. This is the only horse in the field with any semblance of proven speed, and that career best effort came last time out, the first time dropping down to the $5,000 level. I like the number 5, Secret Moment. Race number 1 at Louisiana Downs on Saturday. Remember, daily racing form, drf.com for all the past performances. Every week we'll have a best bet for you right here. Make sure to tune in to Erik's podcast, all the content that he does. Whatever he's telling you, you better listen.
Make sure you give my boy Gino a follow at It's Me Gino B on Twitter. Gino and I do a NBA show every single day. There is an NBA game for the playoffs. Fast break bets. It comes out Monday through Friday at 5 and on the weekends at high noon. Now, before I introduce Chase, you got to give credit where credit is due. He hit an absolute home run this weekend at the Kentucky Derby.
AKA Race 7. What do you like here, Chase?
I've got a horse on the rail who doesn't fill out his fruit of the looms. Number 1, No Balls. I've been watching this horse race up at Woodbine in Canada through some of their tougher races. I will be win betting No Balls, but I've got a few horses that I'm going to tuck in with that in an exacta, and that's the 6 Bad Beat Brian at 15-1, and then the deeper closer 11 Motorious at 8.
It's a huge upset by No Balls over Motorious.
I mean, dude, Chase, $500 exacta, man. Just calling your shot, dude. Hell of a hit, brother.
Thank you. It's the great thing about horse racing is you can have a rough weekend and still catch one of those and be up for the weekend, have good feelings. I couldn't stop sweating afterwards for some reason.
I mean, that's a hell of a hit, dude. I mean, and you had the win too. I mean, Jesus Christ, dude. Hell of a job.
Thank you.
Kentucky Derby was great. It was interesting. I was alive to my boy Two Phil's. Fun fact, I grew up in the same town as the jockey on Two Phil's. Bobby Thomas says, shit, nice call. That was a nice call. Okay. So I was on Two Phil's. I was alive to Two Phil's and some stuff. Had my heart ripped out. But before we jump in to the Kentucky Derby, we need to talk about you and all the great stuff you do Monday and Friday. You and friend of the show, Jim, have the gymnasium. You talk everything football. Pretty soon, you guys are going to start going every single week through the college football season.
Yeah.
And make picks, which is absolutely insane. Then on Monday, you recap the XFL, USFL, all the football from the previous weekend. And then you have the notorious OTB podcast. Why don't you tell everyone a little bit about that and the topics you discuss?
Yeah, sure. The Notorious OTB, that's my horse racing podcast that I do with the Sports Gambling Podcast Network. And I mean, it's pretty much just me in podcast form. It's focused on handicapping, on wagering on horses, coming up with best bets for either for a card or for a pick 5 sequence. I usually have guests on to cap with me, so you get different opinions. And we try to teach a little bit. So newer folks, like, we're going to do a little bit of content that's geared towards beginners handicapping, and then any questions that people send the show, it will gladly answer. But yeah, man, it's just me. Like, I can't describe it any other way.
I've listened to a couple episodes. It is a great, and if you're new into horse betting, Chase is phenomenal at explaining stuff. And like, I like the way you explain stuff, just because sometimes when I ask people questions about horse betting, and I'll admit it, I know nothing about it, they make me feel like an idiot for asking the questions. But the way you explain it, you do such a good job in it. It's just very natural. So if you guys make sure you check that one out, it's going to be a great episode. Chase is very good at breaking stuff down and explaining it in a way that's easy to relate. And he doesn't make you feel dumb for not knowing it, which is great in my eyes.
Yeah, new people who started, it's not like it's like the 1920s with like Newsies and stuff, where people are skipping school after they get done selling their papers to head down to Aqueduct. It's like, it's just kind of changed, where you don't have many people to like take you under their wing and teach you. And so try to do a little bit of that.
And that's what it's all about. And that's what I try to do with sports betting. But before we jump into our bets, I just need to ask you some questions, my man. Sure. About the old Kentucky Derby 149. What was your biggest takeaway from the race?
It was that we might have hit like a new era of Kentucky Derbies. For like the last few years, they've been dominated by these horses that are kind of the Bob Baffert prototype of, they can get out front, they can run really fast, and just no one catches them, or no one wants to go out there and try to run with them on the front. And it seems like that's what everyone is training and breeding for now. And so you had so many of those that now 2 years in a row, you've had the pace for the Kentucky Derby fall apart, and you've had horses come from off the pace and score at huge prices. And it might just be that's the norm, because, we weren't expecting extremely fast Kentucky Derby fractions, but 2 years in a row now, we've gotten like sprint fast Kentucky Derby fractions. And, for when you see those fractions, it's completely logical for Rich Strike last year and for Mage this year.
Now, speaking of Mage, can he win the Triple Crown?
It's going to so much depend on who draws into these races. If he continues to get the pace setups of tons of early speed horses drawn into this, where he can have pace to target, come from off the pace and hit those, then there's no reason to say that he couldn't. It's still really hard to do. The problem with him is that he's just so dependent on everyone else to get his trip. Like, he doesn't make his own trip. He needs something to fall apart in front of him. So, I mean, if you could get monster odds for Mage to win the Triple Crown, it'd be worth a sprinkle. But it's so hard to do that it'd be tough to accomplish.
Is there any monsters in the Preakness that you're going to be looking at?
It's really going to depend on who runs back. If it does turn out that there is a lot of pace and it's a closer-friendly race, a horse that wasn't in the Derby that looks to be in line for the Preakness that Steven Asmussen had at Oaklawn, had a lot of steam behind it because the way he was able to close late in races. Red Route 1 is one. I'd be really interested to see what happens with Dermis Sotogake. If Dermis Sotogake draws in, who had a bad start in the Kentucky Derby, should actually have been out towards the lead. I'm going to be really interested there because the horse actually, after basically breaking dead last, still fought to get up to 6th, and it's not what the horse typically does. And then other horses that had trouble, like Verifying, another one that could be up towards the pace. You'll know more next week But we know for a fact like Forte won't be in because of just how the rules between the jurisdictions work, because he was scratched within 14 days in Kentucky. He won't be allowed to be entered in Maryland.
We have a question here. Forte, when will we see him again?
Belmont, I guarantee. Forte's owned by Mike Rapoli. Mike Rapoli's Racing Silks are the orange and blue of the New York Mets. I would think it would take an act of God and or Congress to keep Forte out of the Belmont.
Now, my horse, Two Phil's, still shooken up. He didn't win.
Yeah.
It was announced he's not going to be in the Preakness, I think, earlier today. What does his racing schedule look like the rest of the summer?
I would guess usually these horses that run big races in the Derby and skip out on the Preakness.
It seemed that my boy Chase has frozen here. So, yeah, we are going to keep it going. And I'm going to talk about, you're back, my man.
There we go. I think you'll see him in the Belmont, and then if you don't see him in the Belmont, you'll see him somewhere in the Summer Breeders' Cup races, either shipping to Saratoga and going that route, going to New Jersey to go through Monmouth and the Haskell, or maybe, I doubt, going out west. But I think you'll see that horse in Kentucky or New York.
What about the Whitney? Can we see him up in the Whitney?
It's possible. It's 100% possible. We'll have to see kind of how he exits the road to the Triple Crown, because for horses like Two Phil's, like that's the big difference between Two Phil's and Mage. Mage, that was his fourth career start. Two Phil's has been on the Kentucky Derby Trail for almost a year now. So let's see how he looks after the layoff of racing in the Belmont. I have a feeling he'd probably be pointed towards the Whitney or another big 3-year-old race at Saratoga.
How did you come up with the notorious OTB? Excuse me.
I literally think it was the first name that popped into my head, and I'm trying to. I saw you put this question down for something you might ask, and I'm trying to think. Like, I was talking with Ryan Kramer from Sports Gambling Podcast Network. He was helping me get everything set up. He's like, "You got to come up with a name." I was like, "The notorious OTB." He's like, "That's great." I was like, let's go. Let's run with it. And they made great art with it. And, it just feels like it fits me because like the cross section of horse racing / hip hop fans, not a big one, but I kind of try to tie it all together.
Now, you are a huge Arkansas football guy. We have football in the SEC coming right around the corner. Looking at the Hogs schedule, realistically, we got Jefferson coming back. What do you think their record could be?
I went 8-4, and I'll tell you who the 4 losses are. It's BYU, LSU, Ole Miss, and Florida.
Really? You think they beat Bama?
I do. I think this is the year. I think this is the year that they finally jump up and get Bama. I think they do it in Tuscaloosa.
Even Let's Make Money beating Bama?
We were close 2 years ago at Tuscaloosa. Last year, we let it get away from us, started coming back, and it just kind of fell apart. Like, I think with what they lost with Will Anderson and Bryce Young, which, of course, Bama just reloads. But, yeah, I think that's why I have Ole Miss as a loss, is because it's the look-ahead game before Bama.
Sammy Covers, man. That was my nickname for him. Sammy Covers, dude. I love me a little Sammy Covers.
Dude, Sam Pittman knows the line.
Sammy Covers. Now, one thing we always do here is it's a betting stream. We like to talk betting. We like to give out some bets for the people. As always, the guest always kicks off. And I think you are going to be the first one ever to give out a USFL bet on this one.
Thank you. Yeah, I think I got 2 of them, in fact. Okay. You asked for a future. I feel like a good one. A lot of value right here for the way things stand in the USFL North with the Pittsburgh Maulers plus 1,500, 15-1. They're 1-3. The tops in that division is 2-2. as soon as they figure out their offense and start scoring touchdowns, they're going to start scoring about 50 points a game. Because right now they're just kind of they're starting to show signs of life in the red zone, and if they do, they've got a great defense. So look out, and tons of value there.
You know what? I was a huge Mauler guy last year. Absolute huge Mauler guy last year. Which league do you like more, USFL or XFL?
Honestly, I think they both have their merits. I'm very invested in the XFL right now, so they might have the edge. Honestly, I can't. I see the question of which one will last longer. I can't make that prediction, and I think the reason is because you have one that's basically owned by Fox and NBC, and another one that's owned by ABC and Disney. Like, there's no reason that they both can't coexist for basically forever. And, you know, we've proved that we're hungry for football because the numbers keep coming in on the ratings.
I totally agree with this statement right here. It seems
I do too.
A ton better than year one. Year one was a little bit rough. Now, my future. Are you ready for this one? Let me get my papers ready, my friend.
Let's go. Old school.
Dan Rather. I'm taking the Atlanta Falcons plus 300 to win the NFC South. Now, anyone that listens, watches my stuff, knows I'm big on offensive line. Falcons have a sneaky good offensive line. Here's their offensive line PFF grades from last year. Left tackle, Jake Matthews, 14. Left guard, Matt Hennessy, 7. Center, Drew Delliman, 14. Right guard, Chris Lindstrom, 1. Right tackle, Caleb McGarry, 4. Plus, they drafted Matt Burgon from Syracuse. So this offensive line is going to be able to do the Arthur Smith run game, which sets up the Arthur Smith play-action pass game. When with the Titans, Smith's play-action passing game was the best in the league. Now, with an improved offensive line, add in Bijan Robinson, this offense is finally going to be what Smith imagined. And you have Drake London and Kyle Pitts. You got the home run hitter in Hollis. You got the underneath threat in Scotty Miller. This offense is going to be very tough to beat in a depleted NFC South. Then on the defensive side, you added Kadarius Campbell from the Ravens, Jesse Bates from the Bengals, David Otanata and Caden Ellis from the Saints. Plus, they grabbed the DC Ryan Nielsen, who is with the Saints, who is a great developmental coach. Yep. And their defensive line is going to have Campbell and Grady Jarrett. How the hell is anyone going to be able to run the ball on the Falcons? I feel the Falcons take a huge step forward. And with everyone talking about Bears this, Bears that, Bears this, I think the Falcons are insanely undervalued. I put them at 75. I got them at 75 to 1 to win the Super Bowl. And I locked in 300 to 1 to win the South. I'm all about the ATL this year, my friend.
I like it. My Saints, when they got, David Carr, I thought that maybe our strategy in the first round might be like a nice, like 35-year-old Aussie punter or something like that. Felt logical. He's got weapons and everything, but I think the NFC South is going to be wide open. And so anywhere that there's value in the NFC South, which I think that the Panthers are I don't know what the odds are, but are likely over bet because they just got Bryce Young. I think that's the last bit of value that I think you could probably, get out of that.
Let him eat.
The Mormon missile, baby.
Now, let me ask you this. I went on this big rant how I hated the Panthers draft last week. As, just someone, and I haven't talked to you about what you thought about the draft. Like, what did you think of what they did with, getting Bryce Young, getting Mingo from Old Miss?
Oh, that's right. That's right. Yep.
From Old Miss. And, just what did you think about their draft, like, in general?
It seems like they've been a team that's been missing a quarterback since Cam, got injured and wasn't able to play anymore. You could tell that David Tepper was eager to have like his quarterback. And I think he really just like new head coach, like go ahead, start it over new. Let's see how Bryce Young plays out. I think they had a fine draft, honestly. I like the combination of Bryce Young with Mingo out of Ole Miss because it's just for now, like through a couple of coaching staffs, Ole Miss has had fantastic wide receivers. Like they always seem to reload at that position. So I do think that Bryce Young is too small. I do agree with that. Like I could see Tua 2.0, but I do think that, even when Tua is healthy, they win football games. I could see Bryce Young being the same way.
So my thing with him, and he gets compared to Wilson and oh my God, who's the other guy from Arizona? Kyler Murray.
Yep.
This is my thing. Those are the two guys he gets compared with. What did those two guys have that he doesn't have?
Oh, I can't name a single thing. They're the exact same skill sets.
Well, they were drafted by an MLB team. So that means they have major arm talent. They can throw a ball.
Right.
I don't know if he can throw it. I think he's 30 pounds smaller than him right now, dude.
Yeah.
I mean, Bobby's right. He is too small. And yes, you know what? I hate Tua. I'm a Tua hater.
Yeah.
I wear it proud.
I think Tua is too small. Like I think if he were a bigger guy that we wouldn't be having these constant conversations about Tua, quite honestly. I love Jim, so I can't say too many bad things about the Dolphins and Tua because he will get upset. He's hard on the 2 and on.
I love Jim too, but I fucking hate Tua.
That's fair.
So now we're going to look at some bets for later in the week. And we have the big XFL championship game. But before I jump in and you give your bet for the XFL championship, let me ask you a couple questions about the XFL. Number one, did it exceed, meet, or go underneath your expectations for the season?
I think it met them, maybe a little bit exceeded. I think that you had some really good games. I think much like year one in the USFL, gameplay left a little bit to be desired, but I think they executed everything pretty well with the on-field product. Like I'm pretty happy with it. And, the games are quick and the rules make any game a sweat. It's really fun.
Now, what is one thing that you miss from the previous XFL that got canceled because of COVID?
I mean, honestly, I didn't get to watch as much of the previous XFL. Like I just got into it like that week, and then they canceled because of COVID. I mean, it seems like they carried over quite a bit. The one change, I wish they would have maybe kept the kickoffs a little bit more similar, like kind of with what the USFL has it, instead of like the two teams waiting for the ball to be caught and everything. Kind of, it takes a little bit of the fun out of it. But honestly, I mean, I'm not as much of an expert on it as XFL Jim is, but I couldn't tell you much of a difference between 2020 and 2023.
I feel it was the first league that kind of opened up and accept gambling. That's what I kind of felt. I felt like it was the first league that kind of opened up and accept gambling.
For sure. Yeah. And you got to listen to some people who really don't know anything about gambling try to talk about gambling, great. Which is great. Always entertaining. Yeah.
I love it. So there's the game this weekend. Quick plug. Make sure you check out. I'm XFL Jim, our boy, our good friend. He's going to be live streaming the championship game. Both of us will probably make little cameos in and out of throughout the game. So make sure to check out XFL Jim YouTube page and Twitch page for that. But Chase, what is your bet in this game, my friend?
I'm going to be on the Renegades +7. This is a completely new team since they made the midseason trade for Luis Perez, who's been just absolutely stellar. I couldn't have told you a single Arlington wide receiver's name before he joined, but now he's able to, run the offense, distribute the ball, and they look really tough. I'm actually sitting on a 14-1 future on the Renegades. So if I think that they're capable of beating DC, then I'm obviously going to take the points at -109.
I like it. I like it a lot. We got a couple things. Perez, wasn't he in the USFL?
He was with the New Jersey Generals. Then he ended up with the Vegas Vipers of the XFL and was a week 6 or week 7 trade to Arlington.
Damn, 14-1. Are you hedging?
No, because I mean, seriously, $25. What's I'm not going to hedge $25.
let's have a quick hedging conversation. How do you feel about hedging?
I feel like sometimes you have to bet in yourself. And when you bet in yourself, you don't dilute your profit margin by making a bet that's destined to lose. One of your bets is going to lose. That's guaranteed when you hedge, because, and I feel like it's just kind of throwing money away. But at the same time, I understand, like, if you have a little bit more than a $25 unit on it. Yeah, it probably makes a little bit of sense.
I feel like the last thing you said kind of hits the nail on the head. It kind of depends like how much you need the money and how much money is invested.
Right.
For me, the one time I'm kicking myself for not hedging, this was years ago, like 17, 16. I had the Bucks 100-1 to come out of the East, 200-1 to win it. And that was when they're up 2-0 on the Raptors in the Eastern Conference Finals. Oh, yeah. And guess who also has season tickets to the Milwaukee Bucks?
Uncle Rico.
Yeah. So, I mean, like that right there, that cost me some I missed out on some financial gold. But you know what? I think I only had 100 each way. So, I mean, it wasn't like too bad, but looking back at it, I wish I would have hedged a little bit, because I think the Raptors got up to like 8-9-1 to come back, because the Bucks were just so dominant in those performances.
Because I mean, let's use the math here. Because I mean, I'm 25 to return 375 on the Renegades. If I'm going to bet to hedge, then maybe betting the defenders on the money line, because I'm not going to get cute and lose both bets. And if I do that to turn around the exact same profit, I'd have to bet like $400. It doesn't make sense to hedge.
What are your odds?
Plus 1,400 on the future.
All right. So, and you bet 25. What are the do you know what they are off the top of your head on the money line for
I can tell you.
Let's do a little math here. I'm doing a little math for the people. What is it? Minus 200? 180?
They are minus 263.
Minus 263 on the money line. Okay, so if you hedged it by betting $271.69, that means your profit would be $78.31 on your bet. It makes 0 cents for you to hedge, dude.
Yeah.
Zero cents for you to hedge. My next bet, I'm going to the association. I'm going to MSG. Give me the Knicks minus 3.5. Look, what Miami's doing is insane, but people forget that this Miami team was down to Chicago in the play-in game. They should have lost this game. Gino tweeted me this. Gino sent me this tweet in my DMs the other day. You're going to be blown away, okay? Just listen to this. So the Heat, worst record in the league, 30-43-3 ATS in the NBA. Worst. Absolute worst record. Okay. 8-1 ATS in the playoffs.
Something's got to end, right?
I mean, like, just regression. You look at the last game, the Knicks did beat themselves with turnovers. Plus, I expect them to get a little bit better of the home whistle. A couple of those calls were a little comical, I thought. They're due for some positive turnover regression. Like I said, I just don't trust the Heat's offense. And the one thing that really stood out to me was their spacing looked a lot better with Quentin Grimes out there. He's that knockdown three-point shooter. Josh Hart plays. He's not that good of a three-point shooter. You can sag off of him. So, you know what? I like the Knicks to bounce back, force a game 6. You know, I'll take the Knicks minus the 3.5. There's a couple player props I like in this game too. One of them I'll give out a little bit later. Chase, what is your next bet, my friend?
All right, so I've given out a Mahler's future, which means I have to believe that they're going to turn it around eventually. And right now they're getting plus 155 on the money line versus the Michigan Panthers. Michigan looked great right out of the bat, right out of the gate, but they had trouble and pulled Josh Love last week. They put in Carson Strong. They looked awful. If they got quarterback problems, I really like this Maulers team because of the defense, and I think that their offense is slowly coming together. And once they put their offense together, start betting Maulers overs.
Mauler Nation. I was so big on the Maulers last year. Like, I don't know if you remember, but every single week I was like Maulers, 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 Maulers. We have a basketball question. CP3 coming back. I have an interesting CP3 thing. What do you think about CP3 coming back?
At this point, like, doesn't he at least need like 1 or 2 games a series to rest because he is so old and so beat up at this point? I mean, I haven't followed the injuries on this one. I'm not sure what he's dealing with, but I'm sure he'll be back.
He has a quad, and
Yeah.
My thing with this is they're actually playing better without him because they're getting out and running a lot more. So I actually like what I'm seeing from them running the football, dude. I'm already in football mode talking to you, dude. Running the offense, getting out, and fast breaking. My next bet, I'm staying at MSG, baby. I'm staying at MSG. Give me RJ Barrett over 19.5 points. The one thing that this playoffs has shown is RJ is the man at home. He's averaging 23.75 points per game at the Garden. On the road, he's only averaging 16 points, and he's only gone over his player prop total once on the road. He's gone over at his player prop point total every game at home but one. With the Heat putting Bam on Randall and Butler and Brunson, he's going to be matched up with either Max Strus or Gabe Vincent. This is going to allow him to cook one-on-one, a little bit more ISO ball. I expect RJ Barrett, a huge game for him, so I'm going to be on over 19.5 points for Mr. RJ Barrett. Chase, your next bet, and I believe you're staying in MSG too, my friend.
Yeah, I kind of thought that the Knicks had a big effort in them, trying to fight off elimination. So straight up Knicks on the money line, but I thought this line for points was maybe a little bit low, especially if I do believe that the Knicks are going to win. I think that Jalen Brunson is going to have to be pretty heavily involved and do his thing. I think he's gone over this total 2 out of his last 3 games. And then the Knicks over 106.5. They have not been going over this total. I really think that the Knicks are due for just either a better shooting night or just a flat out, offensive explosion.
I feel like they completely beat themselves last game. I mean, I think it was the turnovers, the silly turnovers, and it was just one of those things where you just have to scratch your head and just kind of like move on. I mean, that's all you have to do. You watch the video game, you move on. My next play, and I'm going to the pride of Newark, Kansas. Give me Austin Reeves under 21.5 points, rebounds, and assists. He's only gone over this total once in the series, and that was last game. So it got bumped up. This was actually at 20.5 last series, got bumped up a point with him going over. And anyone that watches my stuff know I treat sports betting like the stock market, buying low, selling high. And I am selling Austin Reeves. I really feel with what the Warriors do, he's not as valuable in this series as the other guys on the Lakers bench. And we've seen that because he's playing less minutes. His minutes are down 4.5 minutes per game against the Grizzlies. He was great in that Grizzlies matchup, but against the Warriors, I really don't think it's a good matchup. And plus, this game, in my eyes, 1 of 2 things is going to happen. Either the Warriors are going to boat race the Lakers, or the Lakers are going to boat race the Warriors. There's no in-between thing happening. 1 of the 2 things is going to happen. So I'll take Austin Reeves under 21.5 points, rebounds, and assists. Chase, dude, you just had your christening on the show, man. How'd it feel?
It's good. It's always you're one of my favorite people to hang out with on the old sports gambling social medias, and you're also, like, me and Jim talk about this all the time. You're the sharpest bettor that we know, so it's an honor to be here to share the waves with you.
Well, I hope to have you back soon, my friend. We have one more comment coming on. If you had to pick a winner, who's winning the NBA title? Dude, this is a no-brainer to me. But who you got, my friend?
I don't, honestly, and it's probably chalked out to hell, but the Nuggets.
Yeah. I mean, I don't mean to brag, but someone's sitting on the Nuggets 20-1.
Did I mention sharp? Did I mention sharp?
Just so sharp over here. Chase, thanks for coming on. I definitely look forward to having you on in the future. Make sure you give my boy Chase a follow at OF Oaklawn on Twitter. Also, the notorious OTB on Twitter. Make sure you give it a follow. When does that podcast come out, my man?
See, we did one episode this week. Usually it's later in the week, though. Wednesday, Thursday, Friday.
All right, make sure to check that out. Thanks for tuning in. We'll be back here next week. Let's make some money, boys and girls.